Hello viewers, welcome to K Diagnostics. Dio here. Today we have a 2004 Hyundai Sonata with a 2.7 liter. Customer complaint on this car is that the customer hears a noise when he steps on the brake pedal. When I put the car on the lift, I could see already through the rim that the rear brakes are grinding. So the brake pads are completely worn and they're actually mirror to mirror right now. So I'm gonna remove the tire so I can show you how bad the brakes are worn, especially in the rear. So this video is gonna be about how to remove and replace rear rotors and pads on this 2004 Hyundai Sonata. So let's get this tire removed. So I'm gonna remove this cover first. Just use a screwdriver and then pry it off. Right there. The wheel lug nuts are 21 millimeters. And we're gonna remove this. The brake rotor is completely worn out, and as you can see, the friction surface has darkened, and I mean it's definitely rusty. So the pads are completely worn, so they're grinding the rotor. So this is what was causing the noise when he was stepping on the brake pedal. So first things first, we're gonna start by retracting our caliper piston. I'm gonna do that by prying on the outer pad here with a little screwdriver or pry bar to push our piston inward. So you guys saw how smoothly and easily that piston got retracted. So what you don't want to see is you don't want to apply too much force to retract the piston. If you do, it means your caliper piston is either sticking or stuck. If your caliper piston is stuck, you have to replace your caliper because that can cause some brake drag. So now the next step is going to be removing these two 14 millimeter caliper bolts. So I got one removed. Now we're gonna move on to the next one. The top one is removed. Alright, so now let's pull out our brake caliper. And right here, you can use a bungee cord to hang the caliper up. So I'm just gonna sit the caliper right here. Just make sure it doesn't fall. So that looks good right there. And I'm gonna remove my brake pads. So here comes the outer pad, and unbelievable. You don't want your brake pads to get worn as bad as this. This guy wasn't even getting his brakes checked. Alright, so this is the outer pad, and you guys can see how worn out this pad is. I mean, it's only this metal plate here, so the lining on the pad is completely gone. So outer pad removed. So now let's remove the inner pad. Alright, so here comes our inner pad. The inner pad is not really bad, but the outer pad is completely worn. Look at the outer pad compared to the inner pad. Can you tell the difference? See that? We have a little bit of lining here on the inner, but the outer is completely worn. So this can be caused by sticking caliper pins, and these caliper pins are actually going in and out easily. I don't really know why. Usually when we see things like this on the field, is because the caliper pins are sticking. So I'll make sure that the caliper pins are lubed up really well when I install the new rotors and the pad. So now the next step is going to be removing the caliper bracket. The caliper bracket has got two 14mm bolts back here. So I'll show them to you. So this bolt, and then there's another one up here. So once I remove those two 14mm bolts, the caliper bracket will come out. One caliper bracket bolt is removed. Now I'm gonna remove the second one. Second one is removed. Now our caliper bracket should come out. And here comes our caliper bracket. So I'm gonna sit it aside. Now the next step is gonna be removing the brake rotor. The brake rotor has got one Phillips head screw here that we have to remove. Alright, so after removing that screw, our brake rotor should be able to come out. We need to shake it a little bit. You're gonna need both hands to remove the brake rotor. Just shake it and pull, and here comes our brake rotor. Our brake rotor is completely worn out. This is where our brake pad was grinding, the inner pad that was completely worn out. And look at the back of the rotor. Do you see its friction surface? It's completely damaged. You see the rust? You will see the difference when I show you the new one. So this is a combination of a brake drum and a brake disc. So this friction surface here is for your service brakes, and then the brake drum here is for your parking brake. So your park brake shoes actually hold the drum for parking brake use. So I'm gonna sit this down here. The next step is gonna be cleaning this entire assembly here. So we're gonna clean this backing plate. We're gonna use some brake cleaner, and we're gonna clean these brake shoes. If this brake rotor came out pretty easily, but if it comes out hard, or if you can't get it out, you're gonna have to remove this rubber here. You see this little rubber boot? You have to remove this rubber boot and then back off your brake shoe adjusting mechanism here to retract your brake shoes so you can remove the brake rotor. This one came out pretty easily, but sometimes you have to back off the adjustment so that you can remove your brake rotor. I'm gonna use a wire brush to clean up this flange here first. And after I clean the flange, I will bring a brake cleaner so we can clean up this entire assembly here, and then we can start reassembling everything. So I will get the wire brush and then clean up this surface, because we have to make sure that this surface is completely cleaned. Because if this surface is not flat, that can affect our brake performance. So you have to make sure you clean up this surface. You don't have any rust build up here. So we have to make sure we clean this. So I'll clean up. I will bring the wire brush and then clean this. All right, so can you tell the difference? See how nice and shiny it looks right now. So now I'm gonna use this brake cleaner to clean up our brake shoes. So the brake shoes still look good. We're gonna reuse them. We're now gonna attach the back brake side of the brakes. So we're gonna leave them alone. So we're gonna let the brake cleaner dry out, and then we will start installing our new rotor and the pads. Alright, so our brake cleaner has dried out. So now I'm about to install the new brake rotor. Look at the difference between this brake rotor and this old one. Can you tell the difference? So our new brake rotor is ready to be installed. So before I install the new rotor, I'm going to apply a little bit of anti-seize compound here. I mean, you don't want to put too much, but it looks like I put a little bit of too much there, but it's all good. Now we're gonna find this hole here for the little screw that holds the brake rotor in place. So we're gonna align it with this hole right here on the brake rotor. Now we're gonna push it in, evenly push it in, right there. Our brake rotor is installed. The next step is gonna be installing this brake rotor hold down screw. Alright, so that's tight. The next step is going to be pulling back this rubber boot here that protects these adjusting hole. So the rubber boot is installed. So now the next step is going to be reinstalling the caliper bracket. Let's install the caliper bracket. So you're just gonna sit it over here, and then I'm gonna bring the caliper bracket bolts. Just gonna make sure the bolts are lined up. I'm gonna try to put some light here so you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm gonna install the second caliper bracket bolt. So here goes the second one, and the first one is up there. So make sure you finger tighten them first. Alright, so I have tightened them just with my fingers first. So now we're gonna bring our ratchet so we can tighten this. Yes, I had a drain container down there. I wasn't just spraying the brake cleaner on the floor. So you want to get these caliper brackets bolt as tight as you can. You don't want to over tighten them, and you can torque them if you want. I don't really torque this, I just go by feeling. With my hand I can kind of tell if I'm good or not. And they're just little bolts, so they're just 14mm bolt. So don't get all your strength out on these bolts, otherwise you're gonna break them. So we got our caliper bracket installed. So now the next step is gonna be installing our brake pads. We're gonna install our inner pad and outer. So here are both pads. The one with this little thingy sticking out here is the inner pad, and the one without the thingy, the shiny thingy on the side here, is the outer pad, the pad that's gonna go over here. This one is the one that goes on the caliper side where the caliper piston is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna apply a little bit of compound anti-seize here on this back side of the pad, on both of them, to prevent the brakes from squeaking. So I'm gonna see if I can do that with one hand. So you just wanna put a little bit of anti-seize right there, a little bit on the side. So right there, this is how it looks, not too much. So now we're gonna install our inner pad. So what you need to do is you have to make sure that you sit your pad straight and then push it in. And right here, our inner pad is installed. So now we're gonna install our outer pad. So same process for the outer pad. Hold your pad straight and then align it and then push. So you can tap it a little bit using a hammer. Just make sure your pad is aligned. So I had to tap it in a little bit with a hammer because these pads holding springs are really hard. The trick is just making sure your brake pad is aligned, is straight and aligned, and then it just goes straight in. And don't forget to apply some anti-seize compound on the back side of the pad. Not the lining side, not where the friction material is, but the back of it, because that's going to prevent it from squeaking. And also make sure that your caliper pins move in and out without any effort. As you can see, these ones are moving in and out. I actually had to clean them. I took them out and cleaned them off and put new anti-seize compound or grease there. So this is ready. So now the next step is going to be installing our brake caliper. So our brake caliper is gonna come right here. Our piston was retracted already, but you see it looks like the piston is sticking out a little bit. As you can see, I cannot install the caliper because the piston is in the way. It's touching the pad. So what should we do? Well, we have to retract this piston back. So you can use a C-clamp to push it back. So I'm gonna use big pliers to push the caliper piston back. All right, so now let's push the caliper piston back. And as you can see, the caliper piston has been pushed back. Right there. So now our caliper is ready to be installed. So right there, I'm gonna install our caliper bolts. One goes up here. So one is up here and then another one is right down here. Alright, so now I'm going to tighten the caliper bolts. You can torque this down if you want. They're just small 14mm bolts. I usually don't torque this, like I said. I could if I wanted to, but I mean, I just go with the feeling. You can use a regular ratchet to tighten these. They're just tiny little bolts, so don't just go too strong on these because you'll break them. So that's good enough. We're going to do the same thing on the bottom one. Alright, so the caliper bolts I tightened. So what do you think the next step is? Well, we're done. The next step is going to be putting the tire back on, and we should be done with this. So I'm going to install the tire. Alright, so the tire is ready to be installed. I'm gonna use a 90 foot-pound torque stick to tighten the lug nuts. Alright, so the lug nuts are tightened. So now the next step is going to be putting this cover back on. There's a little notch here that goes right here. So you just have to make sure this notch is lined up. And right there. Alright, that's it guys. This is how you replace a rear rotor and pads on this 2004 Hyundai Sonata. I hope you like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why. If this is your first time here, subscribe to my YouTube channel, K Diagnostics. While you're down there, don't forget to ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. Thanks for watching. See you next time.